Hey, Josh here. Here we are on the first video on this new woodworking channel, one in an ocean of woodworking channels, no doubt. But I want to start things off by doing a little shop tour. I've been in this space for about 10 years. It hasn't always been for woodworking purposes, and it probably won't always be. Just like any little home shop, there's home stuff involved. But it's been a great space. It's about 30 feet long and 12 feet wide. One of the first things I made was this woodworking bench here. It's got two vices on it, a simple bench dog system. There are millions of better benches out there probably, but this holds things tight on both sides, and it's worked out great so far. One of the other things I made a little bit longer into making some projects and getting used to things was this hand tool cabinet, and I'll show you that right now. The tool cabinet on the wall here, I made certainly a few years into after making some smaller projects. The whole carcass is dovetailed and made out of oak. I found at a cabinet shop around the corner. Around the corner was also at that cabinet shop some beech that's right here, some oak on the front that I had book matched, and put a piece of butternut in the middle of something that I had taken to the sawmill a couple years prior. The drawers, there's not much of a grain figure on the front here, but I tried to have a continuous grain going across these drawers. My first time doing something like that. A lot of the things I made are definitely for the shop, and it's kind of an experiment to see how it works doing that and being like, well, if it turns out not great, it's for the shop. It's not something that I gotta look at my house every day or whatever. It's a good place to kind of tinker around and mess with stuff like that. A lot of the drawers, well, all of them, there's 4 of them here, they all pull out. Some are cut a little bit lower, so they're not quite as deep there. Can't fill up with too much junk. It's nice to have dedicated drawers with certain tasks that you would pull out, like here's the sharpening stuff, that kind of thing. And so 2 of the drawers are lower, 2 of the drawers, the sides come up all the way. On the inside, it's rounded over, though. You're not going to catch yourself on the sharp edge of a board reaching into a drawer, but at the same time it has like kind of an inviting nature to it, like it is some sort of design element that I just thought was kind of nice. When you open up the tool cabinet, it's a mix of stuff here, obviously all hand tools, hand tool bench, that kind of thing. I don't do a ton of hand tool work. I like doing a lot of hand tool work though when I can, just because when you make a mistake on a machine, it happens a lot quicker, whereas with hand tools it's like the fact that things are slowing down, there's more effort there, but at the same time you're gonna see when there's a problem and you could stop it before it happens, or you just make it a small problem. Yeah, my 10 cents on hand tool work stuff. On this side are all the straight chisels here, some scrapers, random stuff. I got some wood planes, a couple different molding planes, a router plane, some, just your average jack plane, that kind of thing. Just hit up garage sales, find good stuff. Learn about it online, it's pretty easy. The door on this side is some gouges. I was really getting into trying to do some stuff like the website for Peter Follansbee, stuff like that. I got into that a little bit. I liked it a little bit. I got a cheap-ish set of gouges to mess with it and had fun with it, and I'm sure I'll do more of that, eventually. But so that's the tool cabinet there. Pretty standard. I know there's lots of designs all over the internet for different tool cabinets. It is heavy, but it's nice to have it all right there, right up at my bench. All right, moving down the wall here, there's a clamp rack hanging up above me, holding an assortment of clamps, some bar clamps, some of these aluminum bar clamps from Harbor Freight, which have worked great, as well as this Pittsburgh brand that Harbor Freight sells. Both of these are excellent. Like, I'm 100% sure there is many more expensive clamps on the market. I've only had one of these ever break on me while I was using it. It's like I said, it's not. It's a hobby thing. I'm not a production shop. They really worked fine for my purposes, and I've built lots of things. So if you're getting into buying some clamps, I recommend these two. The actual rack on the wall is just a board screwed to the wall. It has a little bit of an incline facing the wall, so they kind of stay up there a little bit. Also nothing special. I've seen really elaborate clamp racks
Anything to get them up out of the way is good. Speaking of getting tools out of the way, this cabinet behind me is something my grandfather picked up at a hospital. They were getting rid of all these, where he worked, they were getting rid of all these things, these carts that went around. The nurses took them to the rooms. Each drawer was a different room number, different medicine, that kind of thing. They were getting rid of these, and he got a couple of them, and they're really great for tools. You can, obviously, I got magnets and labels on all the fronts of these. The drawers, they come all the way out. So a lot of that kind of hardware tools, anything really. I got some that are just router bits, some that are just screwdrivers, different kind of pliers, just kind of odds and ends stuff, fasteners. Really helpful for that. There's some bigger drawers on the bottom here that I use for sandpaper and sanders. So it's been very helpful for organization of the shop over here for sure. Alright, so leaving that last piece of furniture, which was not intended for a shop but works great for a shop, is this piece of furniture, which was also not intended for a shop and doesn't work quite as well. It looks like it was the kind of thing that was in a kitchen. Probably had a sink right here. It was actually in the room, in the garage when I bought the house. It's just a little bit too deep. Having the nice tabletop surface is good here. It works out well enough. But as far as storing tools underneath, it's so deep it's real easy to have stuff get lost back in there. It's not the best way to organize things. But obviously it's been here this whole time, and so it's worked out okay enough. One thing I made kind of early on into woodworking was this rack for my table saw blades. Just something so it's a little more than just having a stack of them hanging on a screw in the wall or something like that. I keep all my drill bits up here in the boxes they come in, and I just put a hole in them. They hang right there. So I can take them where I need them, or if I need to grab one, I can just access it right here and then close it back up like that. All my Forester bits are up here, same kind of deal. They're pretty easy to get to. There's a cabinet in the corner here that has a lot of router bits and accessories in it, and the router table and table saw are right here to my left. I'll show you those right now. This is my table saw. It's a Craftsman I got on Craigslist. It's not one of the oldest models, but it's also not one of the newer ones. Some of the new ones have this weird plastic stuff on top and weird miter gauge slots. I've upgraded the fence to a Delta T2. It stays parallel to the blade, a much nicer setup than the one that it had that you have to hit with your fist to kind of adjust. And it was kind of a mess. On this side of the table saw, I've taken off the extension wing and put in a router table extension. It was an old countertop I found in the trash that had some laminate on top. It was in pretty good shape, so I made a router table. There's a really cheap plate in there. It's a Rousseau plate, I think, and a Triton router. You can make all the adjustments to the router height and everything from the tabletop with this little crank, but there's no cabinet underneath that you can just reach in and do that. It's a lot easier than getting out that little piece. Behind me I have some simple jigs I made for the table saw, the router table fence that attaches here. I put in a window quite some time ago just to get a cross breeze through the garage. It's pretty small, and there's a feather board on the wall. Random table saw stuff. The blades are right here to my right, and there's lots of wood to my left. So the cross breeze from having the garage door and this window here open is really helpful for being a small shop. But it is still a small shop. I have a dust collector here. This is the separator for the larger pieces. There's like a baffle in there, and I would empty out this occasionally. And then behind that, behind this wall, is the actual dust collector. It's a Delta 2 horsepower, whatever. The bag that's in there collects the finer pieces, and I have to kind of open up this panel on there occasionally and clean that out. The building has this kind of L shape to it, so that was a separate little room I built under the eave out there. That works just fine. Kind of keeps it out of the room, a little bit quieter here when it's on. There's a switch up here to turn it on, and it worked out really great, and it helped, I think, make it a little bit safer for being such a small space with dust flying everywhere. So behind me here is an assembly table and a wall covered in lumber. The same cabinet shop around the corner that threw out stuff that I made my tool cabinet out of went out of business not long after that, and the landlord just wanted some stuff to be taken out, and I got it for a great deal. I don't have a big enough house that I could make much out of this and actually put it in my house, but it's great to get into a project and know you don't have to put a bunch of money into materials. The assembly table here I made when I made the bed that's in our house, and I needed a table to assemble it on. Underneath the assembly table there's the drill press and the planer and some more assorted tools that I can just pick up, put on top of this table to use, and then put down below. I don't need to have little stations where everything's always set up because I'm not always needing to jump from thing to thing. All the tools I have are pretty small and easy to move around. Yeah, like I said on the wall here, I just got done kind of flipping the room around. This side, this is why there's this dimensional lumber left here. This side there was a tree growing in the corner of the building here, a bunch of bamboo in the back, a bunch of water, and of course, Florida being Florida, a bunch of termites. So this whole wall has basically been rebuilt by my father and I, in the process of doing that, I found some windows that I put in there, and I was like, well, windows, nice hand tool bench on this side. The lumber doesn't need to be sitting on top of that, so I kind of switched the whole room around. So far it's working really good, but it's been like that for about a week. Alright, so this corner of the shop is to the left of the bench, and I have some windows in here that recently went in when we redid this wall. That's been really nice, having some natural light, just a little bit coming in, so when I enter the shop area, if I'm working in the yard or something, and I need to come in and grab a tool, I can just head right back out. I don't have to turn the lights on or anything to see what's going on in here. It's kind of nice. Also behind me in this corner is my Jet 6-inch joiner, something I got off Craigslist as well. It's on a mobile base. Normally if I'm going to be using it, it's typically I have a bunch of stuff I'm running through at one time. So I'll take it out, run everything through it, and put it back in the corner when I'm done. One of those things I don't need a dedicated station for. It's not something I use a ton. When I really need it, I need it, and then it goes back away. For having a small shop, that seems to be the way I operate really, just having a tool, pulling it out, using it, and putting it away. One thing I am definitely pulling out and not using again is this radial arm saw. I got this quite a while back. It was my grandfather's, and I used it a good bit initially, and it just was never quite accurate enough. Kind of had a big footprint for the small space, and especially considering I didn't use it that much. It just wasn't something that I needed necessarily. So there's someone coming to pick that up in a couple days that's getting interested in woodworking, and hopefully it'll serve them well and something they can mess with. But yeah, so no more radial arm saw in the shop for sure. Also behind me in this cabinet is just some paint stuff, some finishing stuff, some bug spray stuff for the yard, just basic homeowner things. So this last corner of the shop is a Craftsman bandsaw I got on Craigslist. I think it was about 150, 180 bucks. Super good deal on the saw. It's worked well for me for a long time. I've done some bandsaw boxes and some book match panels, that kind of thing. It's very helpful. My dad took down a cedar tree, so I use this to mill into some boards here, and likewise some stuff in the neighborhood that we had taken down or I've gotten from neighbors, some pear wood. I've stacks of both of those, just kind of waiting to figure out what I'm going to do with those materials. So it's been helpful. It has a pretty okay resaw capacity for the price I paid for it. The problem is, about 6 months ago, I think the blade was tensioned too high. I hadn't been using it in a while, went to turn it on to work on something, and the whole bottom wheel came off. I don't know a ton about woodworking, but I know more about woodworking than I do about metalworking. I don't have a metal lathe, not even sure how to get this figured out. So that's something to look forward to, that challenge, fixing this, because it's a good machine, except for this one small problem. I hope you enjoyed the shop tour. I plan on doing more of these, hopefully some project videos, something educational and entertaining. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to the channel. Thanks. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. The first time I had a temporary tattoo on in the last 5 or 10 years is the day I shoot a video. First video. Doesn't make any sense.